Welcome back to the Wolverine.com podcast. I'm Chris Balas. With me, a special guest, General Manager, Michigan Football General Manager Sean Magee, who is back. And Sean, we talked when you were first coming back to Ann Arbor, and you said you had a vision, you believed in Sherrone more. And I asked Sherrone more about you probably 3 weeks ago and said, talk about the job he's doing. And he said he couldn't be doing any better. So clearly he had a vision, you have a vision, and it's really kind of worked. And just talk about how it came to fruition in today's signing class and what you guys accomplished.
Yeah, no, Chris, thank you for having me on and being able to talk like this. And it's it was just saying, just such a landmark day, right, for this program and hopefully our program history. And going all the way back of having or making the decision of coming back here. I believe in Coach Moore and what that vision was and how I can help with that alignment, right, of what that process and strategy and how we executed. And I think today was that first indicator of what that can look like, right, and what that is going forward. So, it was hugely important to not only sign the talent level we did today, but first and foremost, and what we'll continue to do is, protect the integrity of this culture by getting the right individuals, right, the right Michigan fits. That's how we got to a national championship, right? That building that roster, building that culture, that started 2018, 19, 20, those classes, 21. We went to unbelievable efforts and levels, right, to find those fits. And that's what we've done here too. When people talk about the really highly rated players and starting with Bryce, right? I mean, the first thing I say about Bryce is he's a Michigan fit. And I wasn't sure, right, and what to expect of coming back this way. It's funny. I told this one of the first conversations when I had coming back with Bryce and his family. I said, Bryce, you wouldn't remember this, but the Western Michigan home game in 2021, we walked down the tunnel together, and I told you one day you're going to be the starting quarterback at Michigan.
Yeah, and he probably will be, if we're being honest. So, what a land that was, and kind of take me through the last few weeks of that, and what a whirlwind that was. And clearly, obviously, he was committed to LSU. You guys weren't about to give up when you got a guy in your backyard like that. But everybody's going to say, and a lot of people are going to say, well, you throw a ton of money at a kid and he's going to come here. But it was a lot more than that. And talking to Sherrone about this today, he said, it was about the relationship, talking to him a lot, and the relationship between the family and the program. Can you just talk about how you guys built that and got him to switch on signing or before signing?
Absolutely. That's the first and foremost, right? I mean, it was Bryce probably from as early as he can remember, right? And looking at his commitment video, Bryce wanted to be the quarterback at the University of Michigan, right? And I think as the landscape changed over the last few years and NIL and the strategy of different programs, institutions, him committing to LSU a year ago, we were at a far different stage in this program, right? Where that probably wasn't something we could attain at that time. Obviously I was not here at the time, but that was something that, the realistic or pragmatic view of it was, it was probably both out of our market and out of our general scope of what Michigan had traditionally done. Upon returning here and Coach Moore and I talking a ton about, the vision, the strategy for how we were going to build this and how I was going to help and support that. Coming from the NFL the last couple of years, and especially coming from a team that we had to tear the roster down in order to build it back up and have the number one pick to draft what is hopefully a generational quarterback for that franchise. Sorry to all the Lion fans out there.
I was going to say.
I know that's not a friendly thing to say on this. On this, yeah. But really having that, developing that perspective and experience, the opportunity to get a player like Bryce from here, huge. So what we had to do first and foremost was repair that relationship of, why did you stop recruiting me? And really build trust, right? So this wasn't a transactional relationship. This was building a real, authentic, trusting relationship. And I was fortunate to be a part of that with Coach Moore and again, recruiting the whole family, right? And recruiting with what an unbelievably unique opportunity for someone who really, we've never seen it in the history of this program, right? A player of this caliber at that position from here come and do this and say,
Yeah.
well, what an opportunity to build a legacy that's never been done before.
Yeah, Drew Henson would be the closest, and
The
that was,
closest,
I think,
sure.
yeah, it's something like 24 years ago. Time
Yeah.
flies. That was more than that, actually, 27 years ago. So, but right in your backyard, and to have that, and to be able to keep him home is huge. But the national scope, it's pretty exciting when you see the 6 top 100 kids in there, and you see that Michigan's obviously always been a national recruiter. The last 3 years have been tough, just because that transactional piece was kind of missing. Can you just talk about how the donors have stepped up and made you guys more competitive in that market now? And we obviously, you still want that transformational piece
Yes.
too, right? And that's something that Ward Manuel talked to us about in January. He said we aren't going to buy players; we're going to be transformational, not transactional. But there is a coexisting of the two, isn't there?
Absolutely. And again, this is the most pivotal year, and arguably the no greater change has happened or maybe will happen in the history of college athletics than what will happen in 2025, right? If the House settlement goes through as likely expected,
Yeah.
settled in April and approved to start in July, that allows institutions for the first time to be able to compensate student athletes directly. That alone has fundamentally changed the relationship between a student athlete and the institution, and the relationship between the monetary value of a student athlete, right? Or
Yep.
the monetary potential of a student athlete is a better way to say that. So recognizing what's around the corner was really, in my opinion, coming back here was step one. You know, you look at guys like, the biggest go blue Michigan fits of all time, right? In my opinion, that I was exposed to, right? JJ McCarthy, a Blake Corum. If JJ and Blake were high school seniors today, and we were in an environment that wasn't looking at compensating, we probably don't get them. I mean, that's the reality, right? The world has changed around us dramatically, and we had to answer the call. And how do we do this? Now, you can choose to do it one way, or you can choose to do it, which I believe is with strategy, with vision, with sophistication. That I think we're operating at a higher level than, frankly, than a lot of other programs. And one of my roles and what I came in to do was, how do we create that sort of alignment between Champion Circle, which has done a phenomenal job. When I talk to my peers and people from around the country, they can't believe the level of success that we've had with Champion Circle and the effort that they've had. And this just isn't the high end key donors. This is people that are doing the crowdfunding. This is people that are having the opportunity to pay for events. I think the best way that a Michigan fan can have an experience is to look on Champion Circle and look at that experience menu. That's never before access, like availability to do these things with our guys, with this team, with this program. It's unbelievable. But the efforts that they've had are through the roof, tremendous, right? And I think it took someone in the program to help align those efforts, to unify those efforts, to pool resources, and to manage those relationships both internally and externally.
Yep.
So that's been a huge part of this. So not only helping to define that vision of what this strategy and what this team can look like from a personnel standpoint, and how to execute that, but also, how do we fundraise better? How do we develop relationships better? How do we find the people that can move the meter that way? So not only the large scale donors, but also how can we find opportunities for everyone to contribute, to be a part of this? And that's the reality of what college football is today, the reality of what college athletics are today. So I think it took, in general, right? Michigan hasn't been the first mover in a lot of spaces, but I believe now we can be the best mover.
Yeah, and I think you're getting there. Sean Magee, Michigan's football's general manager. It's funny, a lot of a lot of the subscribers on our site are donors and talk about it. And we've had a great relationship with Jared Wangler and Champion Circle. And every time we would put something out, it was met with skepticism, right? Oh, this is the big one, right? This is the big one, because Michigan was lagging behind, right? But you could see the vision, and you could see what he was building toward. And creeping there, getting there to the point where really people started buying in, and it started with you guys going on the road, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And Jim Harbaugh, when he was here, was actually doing some fundraising with President Santaono when you went to a few bowl games, and then it just crescendos to where you're a monster. And I got to be honest, man, it is fun to watch the SEC, and you don't have to comment on this. That's just me talking, but watching these guys cry about where they are compared to what Michigan's doing now, when we know what's been going on across the country for so many years, and now Michigan is the standard. There's got to be something pretty pleasing about that.
Oh, without a doubt. And Chris, I'll tell you, being in the NFL and having that experience and developing that perspective of seeing the economics of pro football, seeing the concept of roster building, and again, right, being in Chicago where we tore it down, like I said, and to build it back up, unbelievable, right? Unbelievable professional experience, personal experience. To now being able to incorporate that in a place like this, that's truly, truly special. And when my family and I, when we were working in the NFL in Chicago, and thought, this is a great environment, I didn't necessarily see myself coming back to college football, except for this place, except for Michigan. And when Coach Moore gave me a call and said, "Hey, I need you. Will you come back?" It's again, this is a truly special and extraordinary place that feels like home, right? That's become home. And to be able to, we're fortunate as a football organization and staff members that work for a program, we don't own this program. We're fortunate to have the keys for a little while, right? But we all, right? The Michigan fan base, the state, everyone, that's who owns this program, right? We just get to be able to drive it for a little while.
Yeah,
so it's humbling every day to be able to walk in this building, to be able to work to support this program. It's truly special, and that's why we came back, right, to help people in this place and this program and our players. So let's build something that we can sustainably do this, right? So and you see it, Chris, you mentioned on some of our competitors that frankly probably don't have the scope and size of our fan base, the success of our fan base, the resources of our fan base. This is what can win in this era, right? And that's what we need to continue to do and push. Talking about how pivotal this next year is in 2025. Everyone, I've talked to so many donors and people, external to the program, saying, the rev share thing's happening, all this problem is solved. Not at all. That at best case, this is going to happen in July of 2025. This is 6+ months that we need to hit the gas, right, and fundraise and to help to execute this vision that we've developed, right, and the strategy that we've developed. And so it's been awesome to see. I hope individuals can see, again, really starting with this class, right, the signing class. The best way I can always describe it is like in any business situation, right? What's the return on investment? We're seeing right now what that return on the investment is, right? And I truly, truly believe, because of how we're doing this, how we're organized, we've got a competitive advantage right now that we're gonna be able to do this at an extremely high level. We need obviously continued support. We need the help of everyone, but truly humbling and exciting to be a part of this.
Yeah, we're gonna give our subscribers a chance to show them where to go in order to donate at the Champion Circle. Just a couple more questions, if you don't mind. I wanted to ask you, what's your day-to-day like now in terms of balancing the portal? I would imagine the phone's ringing off the hook now, right? Yeah. Given where you guys are, and you get Bryce Underwood, and then all of a sudden, boom, does that phone just nonstop ring in your office there?
That Thursday when Bryce had announced it felt like for the next probably 72 hours, it was I probably had the phone on my ear for 60 of them. Yeah. But a combination of a lot of things, right? And when we got into this and when we decided to make that push and push to reestablish that relationship and recruit Bryce and try to get this done, in my mind, there were a couple things that were the objectives, right? Obviously, first to get him, that's first and foremost, but also, I wanted to show, and we wanted to show that we can flip the narrative here. We can flip what both locally and nationally, what people believe Michigan could do and what they said we couldn't do, right? And how do we flip that? Because just even us getting in this effort and showing that and pooling resources, attacking this from different ways that we hadn't before, I think can inspire some positive change, right? And then inspires the momentum and activity within the player base, but also the momentum and activity of our fan base of saying, hey, we're going to be able to compete and fight in this new environment. But no, it's been just amazing with culminating in a day like this today.
Yeah, and when you talk about the roster, how do you decide? Do you have to, as a general manager, you start piecing things together during the season and say,
Oh
okay,
yeah, no,
this might be the direction that we have to go?
it's constantly,
Yeah,
right? It is, one of the interesting parts, and again about this revenue share environment, a piece that people have heard of, but now the rosters are going to be capped at 105 total people. So that's not just a scholarship limit; that's a total limit on the roster. So today we have 136 on the roster, this season. So this is totally reshaping, and I think again coming from the NFL and having an understanding of limited roster size, 53-man roster. We've had to look at this and say we have to change and adapt to this new scenario, right? We have to change and adapt to how we construct this. So, it is a daily process of looking at, how many running backs, how many defensive linemen, how many safeties, at what level. And it's not just talent accumulation; it's finding the right fits. It's saying, and again, when you're talking about resources, it's not just saying we need the best 6 players in the country in that spot. Well, that doesn't make any sense because that's not a great investment, right? If let's say 2 players are playing at the position, we can't get there, right? So it is an almost 24-hour day thought in my mind about how we put this roster in the best position, how we build it, how we account for obviously the tremendous success we've had with individuals that have the opportunity to go play professional football.
Yeah.
I joke all the time, you don't replace, some of the players that, maybe departing for us because they're some of the best in the country. But what's the strategy to get to a level of production that's even close to that? So it is constantly looking at that, constantly tweaking it. And how do we build it through the means of acquisition, right, and recruiting and the transfer portal, and then the retention of our guys as well.
Yeah. If you keep Kenneth Grant and Mason Graham here, we will build a statue to you. So, however, I do think these guys are probably heading out. But guys like Rod Moore, Max Bredesen, are these guys that you sit down with? Is that what you do? You sit down and have conversations with these guys?
Absolutely.
Okay.
One of the big things, and what we talk about with our current guys, and what I will continue to talk about with our current guys, and would talk about with recruits, player evaluation and compensation in the NFL is a pretty straightforward thing. When players get to their second contract beyond their rookie contract, so the first time they get to be able to negotiate a contract, really get to be paid the true value of what they've done so far in their careers. It simply is production and comps, right? So at whatever position it may be, what's the production that they've had? What's the potential for future production? And what are the comps, like in any market? So what are players that have similar production? What have they done? How are they compensated? So the problem in college football is there are no comps.
Right.
So what we've tried to do, and leveraging off this NFL model and mindset, and again, how an NFL roster is constructed and created, we try to create our own markets, position by position, based on, for example, the NFL has a salary cap of $255.4 million this year. So a player like Dak Prescott, who's the highest paid player in the NFL at annually about $60 million a year, he accounts for pretty much a quarter of that salary cap for the Cowboys. So the other 52 players on the roster, have to then work off, 75% of that allocation. So what we've done with, again, in the retention and showing guys what their level of production is, how that relates to an NFL allocation percentage, right, on this position at this level of production versus our cap, right, or what we've created for a budget or a cap number. It's certainly not 255.4 million, which would be awesome. But contrary to what some media reports have said, right?
Right.
And but so we're trying to show the strategic, systematic methodology of how we get to those valuations to retain our guys, to acquire, bring new players in, and again, we're not just throwing stuff at a wall and seeing what sticks. right?
Right.
And I think probably a lot of programs around the country are doing that. We have strategy, we have process, and discipline with it.
And that's why they brought you here, and you're doing a hell of a job. So, last question for you, man. I think this is your first Michigan over Ohio State win as a part of the Michigan program. Am I not
Second, I
mistaken?
was here in 21.
Oh, you were here. That's right. You were here in
Yeah.
21. I forgot. So, however, your first road win. Just talk about
Yes.
being there in that stadium
Oh,
and watching the stunned silence of those Ohio State fans.
it doesn't get any better, and
No.
obviously, while not on the field as a competitor, we're all competitors, right? We're
Yeah.
competitors as fans, we're competitors as staff members, everyone. To be able to enter a hostile environment like that, and even just the construction of Ohio Stadium, right? It feels it feels Coliseum like, right?
I
And
was going to
then
say,
walk down. I've heard a lot of people there was a video, right, of showing our team, going down in the tunnel, and it felt like entering, in Gladiator,
yeah,
and to be able to perform and the guys to play like they did, the strategy that had talked about all week, to see it executing as well as we envisioned. I mean, it's priceless, and I don't think you can overstate how big that was for both teams. The
yeah.
outcome.
Yeah, no question. 4 in a row too. So
Whew.
congratulations to you. And we're just grateful that you're back here, man. And it's great to talk to you. So I appreciate you taking the time. And hopefully we'll stay in touch down the road.
Absolutely, Chris. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sean.